Right, so the year is 2026. The average anime season has more shows than I have hours in a week, and somehow people are still asking me which long anime are actually worth committing to. So I've made a list. 20 long runners, all 100 episodes or more, that I genuinely think justify the runtime. Let's get into it. Look, I know I haven't added Kingdom to any of my previous lists before, but I do have a good reason, okay? Kingdom is, hands down, one of my favorite manga of all time. I had some issues with the anime, but the anime has finally caught up to deserving that reputation too. Early seasons looked like a PS2 cutscene that wandered out of a Go-Away game. People bounce off it constantly because of that. However, season 3 onwards, the animation upgrades. Hiroyuki Sawano takes over the soundtrack and instantly elevates every battle to operatic scale, and what you're left with is one of the greatest war epics in the medium. This is the Warring States period of ancient China rendered as shonen. Shin starts as a war orphan and a slave, dreams of becoming the greatest general under heaven, and across hundreds of episodes, you watch him claw his way up battlefield by battlefield. The bond between Shin and the young King Ying Zheng carries more weight than half the romances I've watched this decade. Stick past the rough start. Kingdom rewards patience. Monogatari just shouldn't work. On paper, it's a show where most episodes consist of two characters standing in a room having a 22-minute conversation about word games, mythology, and emotional baggage, cut with flashing typography and impossible camera angles. And yet, Shaft turned that exact premise into one of the most distinctive anime experiences ever. Araragi being haunted by a rotating cast of supernatural girls in the setup. The actual content is razor-sharp dialogue about identity, memory, regret, and the lies we tell ourselves to keep functioning. The visual language here rewired what anime direction could look like. Quick note on the watch order, because this is what scares people off. Just go with the release order, okay? If you've been waiting for a complete entry point, this is the moment. So, arigato.
その瞬間、俺は後悔した。これでこの世とお別れだ。もったいないな。
Hitman Reborn pulled off the wildest tonal pivot in shonen history, and I'm not sure anyone has fully replicated it since, you know. The first 20 episodes are a slapstick comedy about a useless middle schooler named Suna being tutored by a sentient baby hitman with a fedora. It's gag humor, school nonsense, the kind of thing you dismiss inside an episode. Then the Gogoyuo arc shows up, swings the steering wheel, and suddenly you're watching a serious battle shonen with stakes, deaths, and a power system about literal dying will flames burning out of people's foreheads. The Varia arc cements the transformation, the future arc goes full-blown sci-fi mafia war, and across 203 episodes, the show just keeps recontextualizing what it is. Gokudera, Yamamoto, Hibari, Mukuro, these guys built a generation of anime fans' character archetypes. A genuinely strange, brilliant show that deserves more conversation than it gets. You know what's funny? We spent hours arguing about which anime character would beat who in a fight, but I've actually been settling those debates with my own hands lately. Enter the sponsors of this video, Marvel Contest of Champions. It's a high-fidelity, arcade-style fighting game available on both mobile and PC. Download it right now using my link in the description or the QR code on screen. And look, this game has over 350 champions. 350. You want Spider-Man versus Doctor Strange? Done. You want to throw Shang-Chi into the mix just because? Well, go ahead. The controls are stupid easy to pick up, but pulling off those signature attacks genuinely feels so satisfying. I've been casually running through the story quests, and honestly, pulling new champions and upgrading them is way more addictive than I expected. Plus, this game's been going strong for over 11 years now. 325 million players don't lie. If you needed one more reason to jump in, they're celebrating X-Men 97 Season 2 with the biggest free bundle they've ever done. 20 champions including Magneto, Gambit and Emma Frost. I'm not gonna lie, running Gambit alone is worth the download. Link in the description, QR code on screen. Grab it before July 6th because after that it's gone.
それはまさに全身全霊打者をねじ伏せに行った本能の一球
I'll be honest, I'm not into baseball. I've never watched a full game in my life. Yet, here I am telling you that Ace of Diamond made me lose sleep over whether a fictional pitcher could hit his outside corner with a moving fastball. That's the magic of this show. It treats high school baseball like a chess match with adrenaline. Sawamura's journey from raw, undisciplined arm to a thinking pitcher is paced with the patience of a sports manga that actually trusts its audience. Every pitching duel is psychological warfare. Every batter's adjustment matters. The Seido lineup feels like a real team with real internal politics and rivalries. By the time you hit Act 2 and the senior team graduates, you'll have opinions about catcher hand signals you didn't know it was possible to hold. Few sports anime have me invested in the strategy of a single throw. My wife gave up on Black Clover twice. The first time, it was the screaming. The second time, it was still the screaming. And somehow I convinced and forced her to push past episode 30. And guess what? She hasn't stopped recommending the show since. Underneath the volume, there's a properly constructed shonen that grows into something genuinely great. The animation is famously inconsistent across its run, but when this show wants a fight to look good, the budget hits the screen and some of these sequences absolutely rip. The Eye of the Midnight Sun arc finds its footing, the Elf Reincarnation arc pushes the show into a different gear entirely, and by the Spade Kingdom arc, the emotional stakes properly land. Yuno and R-Star's rivalry is the most heartwarming dynamic of any modern shonen duo. Give it the runway. Black Clover earns every one of its 170 episodes by the end.
諦めないのが俺の魔法だ。
死体からは毒が検出されないって代物だ。まだ人間には試したことがない試作品らしいがな。
Nobody watches all of Detective Conan, not even the Japanese people. The show has over 1,000 episodes, and a meaningful chunk of those are standalone mysteries with no impact on the overarching plot. So here's the secret. You don't need to watch all of it. Follow the canon arcs, the Black organizational storyline, the Vermouth episode, the Bourbon arc, the Rum reveal stretch, and the major movies. That's maybe 200 episodes of genuinely sharp mystery writing wrapped inside a franchise that's been running longer than I've been alive. The case of the week stuff is comfort food when you want it. The canon material is some of the tightest serialized mystery storytelling in animation, full stop. Conan's bond with Ran, Haibara's tragedy, and Akai's chess game with the organization all build. Pick the right episodes, and Detective Conan stops being intimidating and starts being one of the most rewarding long anime you can dip into.
おい、しっかりしろ。立てるか、坊や。坊や。え？高速のシフトウェイト。体を振った反動で左右を叩きつける。
There's a moment in Hajime no Ippo, right before Ippo's first proper title defense, where you realize you've been holding your breath for an entire round. That's the show. Boxing animation has always struggled in the medium because the sport is built on small details, weight shifts, eye movements, breath patterns, and most anime can't sustain that level of physical specificity. Ippo can. Coach Gamugama's training philosophy, Takamura's brutal mentorship, the rivalry with Miyata that simmers across hundreds of episodes. This is sports anime operating at the highest possible level of craft. Sendo vs Ippo is one of the greatest fights ever animated. The Hawk fight broke me. The Volg fight broke me again, and it's still going. There's no other boxing anime that comes close, and I'd argue there's no sports anime full stop that captures the loneliness and obsession of an athlete the way this one does.
もっと速く。もっと強く。
バギー、着地の準備だ。
着地って。
Baki is stupid. That's not a criticism. That's the entire identity of the show, okay? This is a martial arts series where men's muscles have muscles, where a death row convict eats concrete to get stronger, where a character fights an imaginary opponent so hard he sweats real blood, and where the main villain is canonically the protagonist's father who once stopped an earthquake by punching the ground. I love this show. The genius of Baki is that it commits to its own absurdity with a completely straight face. Itagaki writes martial arts the way some philosophers write logic with relentless internal consistency applied to premises that are objectively insane. The Most Evil Death Row Convicts arc is one of the most enjoyable arcs of the modern era. Netflix's revival put the franchise back in front of new viewers, and honestly, if you want hundreds of episodes of grown men beating physics into submission, nothing else competes. Inuyasha is comfort food for me in the deepest possible way. It's the kind of anime you put on at midnight when you can't sleep and let run for 6 episodes before you realize it's 4 AM. Rumiko Takahashi at her most accessible, telling a feudal era story about a half-demon, a girl pulled through a well, a perverted monk, a demon slayer, and a fox kid, all hunting jewel shards across ancient Japan. The episodic structure is a feature, not a flaw. Each fight, each new yokai, each Naraku appearance feels like a chapter in a long bedtime story that you just never want to end. Sesshomaru's slow redemption is one of the greatest character arcs of the 2000s. The final act, when it finally came, gave the entire saga the proper ending it deserved years after the manga finished. It's slow, it is repetitive in places, and I wouldn't change a single episode of it. Fairy Tail has a lot of flaws. I'm leading with that because anyone who tells you otherwise is being generous. The power-ups are predictable, the friendship speeches come on schedule, and Mashima will use the same plot beat whenever it suits him. None of that matters though realistically, because Fairy Tail is the most pure-hearted shonen on this list. It's the anime equivalent of putting on your favorite hoodie. The Tenro Island arc, the Grand Magic Games, the Tartarus arc deliver bangers when you need them. Takanashi's soundtrack does so much heavy lifting that the moment the brass kicks in, you're invested whether the writing has earned it or not. And 100 Years Quest has been a satisfying continuation that scratches the exact same itch. What do you want me to say about Dragon Ball? It's the blueprint. Every shonen on this list, including the ones I rate higher than it, owes royalties to what Toriyama built across the original series. I grew up watching reruns of the Cell Saga and thinking it was the coolest thing humans had ever produced, and honestly, I'm not sure I was wrong. The training sequences, the power escalation, the rivalries, the multi-episode build-ups to single attacks, all of it became the language of shonen because Dragon Ball codified it first. Super was uneven, but the Tournament of Power gave Goku and Vegeta arguably their best collective showcase since Buu. Daima brought Toriyama back one last time before we lost him. For newcomers, it holds up shockingly well. For veterans, it's roots music. Either way, the runtime is more than earned. Yu Yu Hakusho is the show that aged better than it had any right to. Togashi's first major work, written before he became the manga industry's most famous serial hiatus enjoyer, and you can already see the patterns that would later define Hunter x Hunter. The Dark Tournament arc is still, 3 decades later, one of the best structured tournament arcs in shonen. Every fight has a purpose, every opponent feels distinct. The animation peaks during the Toguro brothers final, and absolutely nothing has surpassed it for sheer impact. Yusuke's growth from delinquent ghost to spirit detective to actual demon royalty hits all the beats that became standard, but it does them first and arguably better than most of the descendants. Hiei and Kurama set the template for the cold rival and the strategist support character. At 112 episodes, it's a perfectly contained classic. Watch it, okay? Trust me on this one.
絶望してくれるなイチゴ。
絶望がなんだってよく知ってるぜ。今まで何度も乗り越えてきたんだからな。
Bleach broke my heart twice. First, when it ended its original run mid-arc back in 2012 and we spent over a decade thinking we'd never see the 1000-year Blood War animated. Second, when TYBW actually started airing and somehow exceeded every expectation that I had of it. The Soul Society arc remains a 10 out of 10 introduction to one of the most distinctive shonen worlds ever built. Aizen is still the gold standard for shonen villains. The Arrancar saga had peaks no other arc on the show ever matched, and TYBW has given the entire franchise the ending it always deserved, with animation budgets that look like Studio Pierrot finally got the funding they should have had decades ago. Yuha as a final villain is properly menacing. The Stern Ritter designer philosophy goes ridiculously hard. I came back to Bleach expecting nostalgia and got something genuinely vindicating. That patience paid off. Legend of the Galactic Heroes isn't for everyone, okay, and I respect that. This is a 110 episode space opera with a slow pace, a massive ensemble cast, an obsessive focus on military strategy and political philosophy, and almost zero modern production polish because it was made across the late 80s and mid 90s as an OVA project. What it gives you in return is unmatched though, okay? Two parallel protagonists, Reinhard and young Wenli, leading rival interstellar civilizations through a generational war, with every episode treating their respective ideologies, democracy versus enlightened autocracy, with genuine intellectual seriousness. The fleet battles are slow, deliberate chess matches across light years. The political assassinations and parliamentary scheming feel ripped from Shakespeare. There are full episodes that are nothing but two old men debating governance. I'll defend this show to anyone willing to listen, okay? If thoughtful, mature anime appeals to you, nothing else delivers on this scale.
お願いします。即答、そう来てくれると思ったぜ。
My Hero Academia ended recently, and I'll go to bat for the final arc here because the discourse undersold it. Yes, some characters' resolutions felt rushed, and Horikoshi clearly had a vision the anime didn't always serve cleanly. But the last arc itself was genuinely amazing. The fights were brutal, the emotional callbacks paid off, and the Deku vs Shigaraki finale gave the saga the climactic confrontation it had been building toward for nearly a decade. Across 150 plus episodes, MHA built something I genuinely admire. The early seasons remain some of the most well-paced shonen storytelling of the modern era. The Stain arc redefined what a mid-season antagonist could do. The overhaul and final arcs gave us some of the cleanest fight choreography Bones has ever animated. Deku's relationship with All Might is the emotional core of the show, and it holds all the way through.
僕のヒーローアカデミア。
One Piece is the answer to the question. If you've ever asked me in person or in a comment section or anywhere on the internet which long anime is actually worth your time, the answer is always One Piece. I know the running time is intimidating. I know 1,000+ episodes feels like a lifestyle commitment, not a hobby. But Oda has spent 30 years building a story with payoff so emotionally earned that nothing else in the medium competes. Marineford, Whole Cake Island, Wano, the Elbaf arc happening right now. Every major saga lands because the foundation underneath it was laid 500 episodes earlier. Crew dynamics, character backstories, the slow reveal of the world's deepest mysteries. One Piece is the single greatest argument for serialized storytelling that the anime medium has produced. Start it, okay? Push through that early pacing. By the time you hit Eni's lobby, you'll understand why people refuse to shut up about this show.
なんだこりゃ。
ジャボンディ諸島で再会した3人はついに天下一中任ハンターヒーロー試験を受けるのだったが、だねーよ！何なんですかこのあらすじ！
Gintama is impossible to recommend cleanly, and I'll go one further actually. This isn't an anime for newcomers. You genuinely need at least 100 shows under your belt before Gintama lands properly, because half of what makes it special is the absurd density of references it pulls from across the medium. Once you have that vocabulary though, nothing else hits like it. The pitch is a samurai parody set in an alternate Edo where aliens invaded, and the first 50 episodes will confirm that suspicion. Then, somewhere around the Yoshiwara arc, something just shifts. The comedy stays sharp, but underneath it, you start finding some of the most emotionally devastating storytelling in shonen. The Shogun assassination arc, the farewell of Shinsengumi arc, the Silver Soul finale. Sorachi spent 367 episodes making you care about a deadbeat samurai and his found family, and ripped your heart out when you weren't paying attention. Naruto raised half the people watching this video, including me actually. That's not an exaggeration. For a certain generation, this show was the first proper introduction to anime as a serious storytelling medium, and even with its filler, all its pacing problems and inconsistent animations, the highs of Naruto are still some of the most emotionally formative moments in the medium. The Chunin exams, Sasuke's defection, the pain arc, Itachi's truth, Kakashi Gaiden. These aren't just good shonen moments. These are cultural touchstones. Shippuden goes off the rails in the Fourth Great Ninja War, sure, but the journey to get there is paved with characters that still holds up today. Naruto and Sasuke's relationship is the spine of the entire saga, and when it finally pays off at the Valley of the End, every hour you spent with this show suddenly feels justified. JoJo is the only shonen on this list that refuses to be the same show twice. Each part is functionally a new anime with a new protagonist, a new setting, a new tone, and often a new power system entirely. Phantom Blood is gothic horror. Battle Tendency is pulp adventure. Stardust Crusaders is a road trip with vampires. Diamond is Unbreakable is a small town murder mystery. Golden Wind is an Italian gangster epic. Stone Ocean is a woman's prison thriller. 6 completely different stories under the same family name, all written by Araki, who somehow keeps reinventing his own series every decade. The stand system gave Shonen the most flexible power framework ever designed, and you can see its DNA in everything from Hunter x Hunter to Jujutsu Kaisen. JoJo is the show that proves long-running franchises don't have to stagnate. They can shed their skin every part and come back stronger. Hunter x Hunter is the smartest shonen ever written, and I'll die defending that claim. Togashi treats his audience like adults. The Hunter exam introduces you to the world. The Heaven's Arena arc teaches you the Nen system with the patience of an actual textbook. The York New City arc pivots into heist thriller territory, with the Phantom Troop massacre setting a tonal benchmark no other shonen has matched since. And then Chimera Ant happens. 60 episodes of moral ambiguity, philosophical weight, character interiority, and an antagonist arc with Meruem and Komugi that has made grown adults cry on camera. The election arc as a come down is a structural masterclass in its own right too. Yes, the manga is on hiatus and may never finish. Yes, that's painful, but the 148 episodes we already have constitute one of the greatest achievements in serialized animation. Full stop. If you've never started Hunter x Hunter, look, fix that today. That's the list. 20 long anime, every single one worth the time. If I missed your favorite, the comments are right there. And if this video helps even one person finally start One Piece, then you know what? My work is done. I'll see you in the next one.